So this is Samalang's regret or realization arc, part 9. So after Samalang got advice from Huayang, he got Gao Tu's father, Gao Ming's number, but in his car he hesitated and he couldn't bring himself to dial the number, for he wasn't sure whether calling Gautu's father directly was the right choice, though he did not know the proper condition or proper situation of Gautu's family. He knew a little about how Gautu and his sister Gauching moved out of their home very young, and how Gautu's father hadn't bore any proper responsibilities as a father. And as he was sitting and hesitating, he recalled how one time when Huayang was acting as a secretary, had said that maybe Gautu liked Samalang, but Samalang thought that it was impossible, and he thought that Gautu, who was mild and quiet and even would probably never understood what like probably meant. And he just rebuffed that statement, and Samalang realized how despite severe criticism, Gautu never talked back, and how he seemed to possess a very high threshold for endurance. And with people around Samalang who were for his money, Gautu seemed to be unable to distinguish between Samalang's flaws and his good points. And without any thoughts, he seemed to accept all of it. And Samalang liked Gautu's reliability, his steadiness, his loyalty, and even his clumsy demeanor. Like, in a world full of constant change and people seeking something from Samalang, he liked Gautu for his stubbornness and his inflexible self. And among all the secretaries who were very intelligent, Gautu defeated them all and managed to stay by Samalang's side for the longest. Before, he used to think that it was because he was too lazy to change, but now, having lost all contact and means of reaching Gautu, he realized that it wasn't that he was lazy to change, or it wasn't just the comfort of something familiar. And Huayang's comment once again brought a possibility that Samalang had never even thought before, and that Samalang truly liked Gautu. So yes. After so much of hesitation and realization, he finally dialed the number, and as the call was connected, he felt so nervous as if he was going for a job interview. And indeed, Gautu's father, Gao Ming, had been in Jianghu all this time, and he had been mooching off Gautu's salary and spending it all gambling, and for he thought that he could earn big from gambling one day. And Gautu's father, Gao Ming, was actually in a pinch because he never thought that the always obedient Gautu, who never refused anything, would suddenly vanish without a trace. His number was disconnected and he hadn't received his monthly allowance, and he was very much in a pinch, and so much so that he was so angry that he called Gao Qing, Gautu's younger sister, for he knew that how much Gautu valued his younger sister, and even if they had not much money, he wouldn't make Gao Qing go through any hardship. So he called Gao Qing, but Gao Qing said that Gautu had quit his job and they had no money, and if Gautu's father, Gao Qing, and if Gao Qing wanted money, then he should earn it himself and shouldn't just watch off his son for just because he gave birth to him. But because Gao Ming is such a trash that he was taking it all for granted, and he was thinking that it was a given that Gautu would support him just because Gautu came because of Gao Ming, yeah. And after quitting his job at the HS Group, Gautu had indeed been living with Gao Qing, and he had been helped by Ma Hang, who was their next door alpha neighbor, and they had been living in Ma Hang's apartment. Yeah. And back then, when Gautu had resigned from the HS Group, Huayang had reached in private, expressing his willingness to provide any sorts of help, but Gautu refused, for they were not very close with each other, and he did not see the need to accept help from an Omega who Samalang favored, obviously, and he felt very much jealous of Huayang, for he was able to stay by Samalang's side. And that jealousy had made Gautu feel even more despicable and even more pathetic, and he felt that it further highlighted his mediocrity and inferiority. So